Hello, happy Tuesday everyone. Today we're going to go into detail and a little bit more depth about Halloween itself and everything in between for it, where it originated from, where it came from, which is different in every part of the world. So let's get into a couple of stories. The first one is being with the pumpkin that everyone uses, and what we do with that, the squash, we turn it into a pumpkin head, so a jack-o'-lantern, which comes from a folklore tale as well too, called Jack the Drunkard. Or, if you'd like to, you can just call it Stingy Jack, because this man was stingy. He was an alcoholic, a liar, manipulator, deceiver of Ireland. So this man went out and just ripped people off, I guess stole from them and wanted everything from them and not give out in return for the community itself, right? There's one thing to be an alcoholic, one thing to be a bad alcoholic. And when you're an alcoholic, you most likely have something else that might be a little bit bad going on. Jack-o'-lantern, it originates from different ideas as well too. The jack-o'-lantern, the carved pumpkin, turnip or vegetable root lantern commonly associated with the Halloween holiday. It comes from the reported phenomenon of strange lights flickering over peat bogs called will-o'-the-wisps or jack-o'-lanterns. The name is tied to the Irish legend Stingy Jack, like I said, who bargains with the devil, and because the man was so vile, didn't really enter hell, didn't go to heaven either, so he was just walking the land forever, and that's where that comes from. Which ultimately leads us to the idea that people don't necessarily move on from Earth as well too. There's like that in-between stage where you're like here on Earth, even if you have passed over, which I find quite intriguing in the afterlife and the spiritual aspect of what this holds as a community gathering. The Halloween event that we hold has a few different ways of being celebrated in different countries, and it's important to note that everyone seems to celebrate it in different ways, and there are folklore stories within those communities that are similar to this one, maybe a little bit different as well too. The idea is that the dead they just float around Earth to other places. They're just here. It's like stagnant. Folklore story of the jack-o'-lantern is told different from across Western Europe, including Italy, Norway, Spain, and Sweden. In Switzerland, children will leave bowls of milk or cream out for mythical house spirits called Jacko the Bull. And old Irish folktale from the mid-18th century tells the story of Stingy Jack, who was lazy yet shrewd. He was a blacksmith who uses a cross to strap the devil. One story says that Jack tricked the devil into climbing a tree, which apple trees were sacred back in the day. Once Jack was up there, Jack quickly placed crosses around the tree trunk so that the devil couldn't get down, and then really that just means that Jack can't go to hell, he can't go to heaven. So another version of the story says that Jack was getting chased by some villagers who he had stolen from. Then he met the devil, who claimed it was time for him to die. Although their last thief stalled his death by tempting the devil with a chance to bedevil the church-going villagers, chased them. Jack told the devil to turn into a coin, which he would pay for the stolen goods. Later, when the coin disappeared, the Christian villagers would fight over who had stolen it. The devil agreed to this plan. He turned himself into a silver coin and jumped into Jack's wallet, only to find himself to a cross Jack had also picked up in the village. So really it's really going against everything and just ripping and lying off to everyone. I guess that's sort of what Halloween is and why it makes sense, because it's involving all communities together, and they seem to be like confused that they're all celebrating it together. If you had to choose who started Halloween first, you would most likely say that it came from the Celtic era of life. Halloween is directly related to a few different ways of celebrating the dead. For, of course, Halloween itself, or All Halloween, All Hallows Eve, All Saints Eve as well too, which ties into everyone just being involved in one community, and it has nothing to do with religion or this or that or who owns this, who owns that first. It's about people coming together and celebrating all of the dead, essentially, all at once. It does have pagan roots from the Festival of Samhain, which the Festival of Samhain is a Gaelic festival marking the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter, or the darker half of the year in the northern hemisphere. It is held on November 1st, but with celebrations beginning on the evening of the 31st of October, as the Celtic day began and ended at sunset. It may have had pagan roots. The whole holiday is pagan, although I'm not sure if pagan people would still accept it as it. What happened is people liked the aesthetic and the idea and the mystery behind everything, and they created this Halloween. Although it's not just that only, it did happen in Mexico as well too. If you go to, I like calling it America because I feel like it's so big that it's like, it's not everyone's country. Like, it's not just one country, it's like everyone's country. But it's gotten to the point where it's so big that it just feels like we're calling something a little bit out of hand when there is sort of subcategories of different people inside of those communities. We suppress other people to bring recognition to the Mexican people. They would have similar events, early times as well too. Kids would dress up, go talk to strangers, go out and see other people as well too, knock on their doors. Also, this did happen in Europe at the time too, in England, North England. That is, for an example, they went out and just knocked on everyone's doors, and people would give gifts to celebrate to the dead. People would dress up as the dead so they can get all of that stuff given to them. At the same time, this is a community event. It does tie in with the story of Jack, because he tricked the devil going up that tree and then put crosses at the bottom, or for an example, turned them into a coin and then started getting stuff out of it. So ultimately it's a day of selfishness and going out there and celebrating fun and like greed. Same with like Christmas back in the day. It's a pagan holiday where it was Christianized, I guess, which just means that people took into consideration of what that was and turned it into what they thought without like strong motives on. Although it was used as a marketing scheme back in the day as well. Coca-Cola, which was awful. That was a seven-day selfishness, and at the end of it, they oftentimes performed a human sacrifice. Thanksgiving is another holiday I'd like to bring up as well too before moving on with this, which we would sacrifice an animal as well too. And then there's Eid where they sacrifice an animal. So we're still doing stuff that, some of us see as right and others would see as we're doing sacrifices on the table. So Halloween starts on October 31st because a lot of these other places that would celebrate the dead, their holidays for celebrating the dead were oftentimes around there as well too, and they were similar. People would have the candy skulls. They'd hand candy out to people, put like monuments up. And then for the Catholic people as well too, the Christians, whatever they wanted to do, they did their own stuff when it came to worshiping. Before I get into that, fortune telling is quite important. Fortune telling is something that was part of the way that they went out there and celebrated, maybe starting even beforehand for Halloween, way beforehand. People would go to them for affirmation and advisory to go out there and just feel really confident in themselves and the decision that they made that came from. Now, like I said, Halloween is celebrated differently in many countries and has its own staples. So in ancient Egypt, they do the Weg festival, which takes place in August. And during this holiday, people would leave small boats in the rivers as a way to remember Osiris, the death, and honor their deceased loved ones during their journey after the Aru, which is the field of reeds. There's been a lot of flooding going on in different parts of the world. In Europe, historians have thought the 3-day festival of the dead is a ritualistic remembrance of the deluge. It's a flood myth or deluge myth, that the myth in which a great flood, usually sent by a deity or deities, destroys civilizations. In which Halloween, the first night, is depicting the wickedness of the world before the flood. History behind the floods, just wiping people out and decimating them. North America, they celebrate the Dia de Muertos from October 31st to November 2nd. In Mexico, people celebrate their family members as well too at this time of the year. Like I said, they were handing out materials to the kids. On Halloween, we can all be accepted, and it feels good to allow that to happen. Now, these holidays had also influence by All Saints Day as well too, and let's get into that quickly for a second. So All Saints Day is known as All Hallows Day or Hallow Mass. So it's a mass of people, or the Feast of All Saints. It's where they come together and they pray, they pay respects and their dues to the past saint, paid their respects to the dead, even the old saints as well too. In pagan history as well, they do something that may be similar, but instead of having those saints be continued today, they are still there, although they are discredited by another saint or druid that came along and outspoken or outdid the other one. Then they would be seen as the next of the hierarchy of the druids, or saints, if you may. They actually influence some of the holidays as well too, so it doesn't mean that they are, like, it seems like this could be something bad, like they could be choosing sides, but instead somehow this has been pushed into something that connects with many people of all levels. So then we can bring each other to self, rejoice, and such as a whole, right? Instead of being that one time where we have to kill each other because, oh, well, my book doesn't say that, and yours should. Yours truly, right? And to find everything off of a book and to say that it's right, like, whatever. It's pretty, like, books are quite accurate, although for the most part. Just do some research until proven otherwise, and then those things will be kicked out, knocked back. Nothing of Halloween seems to be of extreme knowledge. But yeah, All Saints Day. Samhain is the Celtic, the Gaelic festival of marking the end of the harvest. So that's majorly where it came from, as we know, because more people would have known about it up in the northern European countries as well too, and they also had other similar scenarios around other places, which would just say that everyone is a little bit the same and different at the same time. So now we find out that Halloween is a community-brought holiday that involves everyone. It has nothing to do with like choosing sides or anything. So the origins of Halloween, no one really knows where the custom originated, although it's most certainly linked with Halloween or Hallows Eve, and was can be found across the West Country as well. The word punky is an old English term for jack-o'-lantern, for punky night, so people would go out and just do crazy stuff, play tricks on people and all that, trick or treat, right? An alternative explanation of in terms of what derived from the pumpkin, or punk meaning tinder. No one knows how the custom originated, although it's almost certainly that Halloween started. No one knows how the custom really originated at this point. It may have been from the Celtic, the Gaelic community as well too, the other pagans across the area as well. I would feel that anything that looks cool and adds some type of character value of people looking different, like having piercings in their ears, tattoos and such, may have had an effect on what this is. It's just dressing up and having fun for our own unconventional types of entertainment. Before I end this, you can leave a like and subscribe, comment, check out my other videos. I do a lot of crazy stuff that I love. What I mean by crazy is just stuff that I like to do. And it's crazy if you don't like it, and that's awesome. Thank you very much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday, people. Bye.